small publication comparatively. Stop it.
I think I stopped. 10-second shot.
Cool.
Splash in the face.
Yeah. That's right. Here we go.
Great fodder for your article.
Cheddar with real cheese.
Scene 1, take 1.
Darkest Dungeon is about the responsibility of friends to protect each other, and sometimes that means from ourselves. Or in this case, Lisa had to fight for the friendship of Catherine, or Kat, to get her back from the dark side. It's a story about the love of friends and how that's created through creativity and imagination.
Darkest Dungeon is our second project of our Media Depot Club, the first one being Seed.
Eric Sanders came to me one day, commissioned me for a script. He wanted a rom-com.
First one was more action-driven.
What we really wanted to do was scale down the production and really focus on the performances.
One stipulation though, we needed to have more dialogue than Seed had.
Darkest Dungeon was dialogue-based, and it was amazing, and I loved it. It was great, it was a lot of fun.
That was a very low bar to go over.
With Seed, we shot 10 pages in 3 days. With Darkest Dungeon, 20 pages in 3 days.
The casting process went by smoothly. We used actors that we knew from our first production.
And that was a very conscious decision because of the chemistry that was already created between these people in real life.
We have Austin, Shalisha, and Maddie already being friends, and Daniel, the new kid, the actual new kid, walking into the scene feeling like an outsider.
I was kind of nervous about it just because during Seed we didn't do a lot of dialogue, so being able to come and rehearse at the set was really helpful because that's how I get into the character more.
So the main goal for production was long takes.
Letting the actors just go through pages at a time of dialogue.
I like it better because you get to get more into the scene and you get to have more feeling and you get to play off the other actors more as opposed to like cutting every 10 seconds and moving the camera to the other person, and that gets exhausting after a while.
We were gonna present it like a stage play, so we had to somehow work long takes and make them interesting.
As an actress, that's the thing that we thrive on. That was very theatrical.
And it was really a challenge to get that much fluidity with the actors, with the crew.
There's just like a lot of different elements that was fun.
We used Jamie for sound.
I mainly was in charge of the H6 and running the end on that, and basically coordinating all the boom operators and training them as we were going.
And we gave him the task of not being in the frame ever when Eric would completely turn the camera 180.
Which is damn near impossible. It's really hard to stay out of the shot and move around with him and get decent audio.
When that was happening, I needed to just let it happen. That me as a director, I just needed to make sure it happened.
Shooting the long takes on the Steadicam gave us the ability to really focus on just that one scene. We worked on it for about an hour, and then after that it was just running takes. And I think we did about 9 takes before we got one that we felt very confident in.
You can't see it, but on the other side of that wall, there was maybe 10 other crew sitting in that living room. You know you're doing something right because everyone's just amazed that this is even happening.
Somehow we managed to make it work.
It was an accomplishment on all fronts. Basement scene really was my favorite. It was the first moment where you realize what is actually going on.
I think I spoke to Alex a little bit, and he worked on something where I would be the dad to one of the minor characters in the movie. They're playing Darkest Dungeon in my basement that I guess my loser son is always hanging out in.
Him and Kirk was the luckiest combination relationship-wise on that set.
He was so funny because he improv the entire thing.
What was going through my head is I'm really bad at following a script. Terrible at remembering my lines and doing them the same way twice.
That was pure magic, watching them on set together. Just really felt like they had lived their lives together and they were just sick of each other.
50 Shades.
Make sure you invite Mom. Oh wait, you're divorced, so you can't.
Hey, you watch your mouth!
Let's play.
I work all day. I deserve to read a freaking book about sex and stuff.
With the basement scene, we wanted to be really critical on how our characters were represented through their environment.
It looked really legit. It looked like a place where people would have to play dice and Dungeons and Dragons games. It was very inviting, and it just kind of fit the scene and kind of fit what they were doing. It was really interesting to see that.
The basement is Brian Clark's house, Pumpkin Man. So that's where Pumpkin Man lives. His basement was perfect. The majority of that set was already dressed. And what Eric came in and did was just add lights to sort of accentuate different points of the room.
To set the tone of the scene with adding different colored lights and making the lighting feel motivated within the environment.
When we were playing the game, like no one had any idea what the heck they were doing. Just like moving all the pieces around, and then like we had those like crackers.
One of my favorite things on set was Max slating each scene.
Max was drawing the little different faces on the slate between each take, and like each different one, it would like go in front of someone's face, and I'd be like, is that a puppy? Is that a bear?
Like, bravo, Max, you know, bravo. So the start of the second half of the movie is a one take from an outside location in the parking lot of the apartment complex to inside the apartment itself.
There's nothing against anybody else, but it makes it kind of difficult to be an audio guy.
We actually had a boom operator outside, and then Jamie was inside on a separate boom.
So we literally had to go from one mic to the other in the middle of a take, and then we still had like 30 seconds to shoot and not mess up.
You had to deal with 1.5 million different factors, like people actually crossing the street, cars going by. Your shadow gets picked up by absolutely everything.
And we had like a split second to get the camera inside, and then the actors were coming in to do the rest of the scene.
I think that was probably the toughest shot for us. I think we pushed ourselves a little too hard.
So yeah, it was difficult. It was rewarding though, because that's one of the things that people said we did the best, was having those long takes.
Eric pulled it off. The whole thing was a really pretty shot. To do something like that could not have been done as our first film, but as a second film with people who knew what we were doing, who we could all click into gear like that, we just barely did it.
We actually took upon the knowledge and the resources that we gained through doing Seed and just tried to go above and beyond and raise the bar for Darkest Dungeon.
And aesthetically, you can see that in this film. We had the same amount of shooting days as Seed. We got double the amount of content in those shooting days. What that says to me is that we are getting better. There is improvement happening at the depot.
Everyone improved from Seed. Like no one went back.
I know in classes I didn't quite learn as much stuff as I wanted to about what it's like to be on a set, or what it's like to be like in the field and using equipment and such. But one of the cool things about being on these shoots is you get to be exposed to that equipment and just know more about the whole shooting process.
On set, you learn a social dynamic that cannot be translated to text. What you're learning isn't about the craft, it's about the people you're around.
The club has this camaraderie, and it's because all of us want to do this. Without it, there wouldn't be a medium through which we could. To be able to work with them and network with them and create this content and, you know, obviously build up our portfolios this way is, you know, invaluable to college students our age.
It's a work that we're all, as a crew and cast, collectively proud of.
Seed was fun to watch, but you know, it's a horror movie, and you guys were just trying to get your foot in the door, and the horror movie gets it done.
Having the opportunity to create relevant content, something that's not just an action flick or a comedy flick, but something that we try to dive into some kind of hard issues that a lot of college students actually go through. I think that our actors did a great job handling this content and using it to kind of promote this overall message of friendship.
Seed was an accomplishment. Seed was, we had just climbed Mount Everest. Darkest Dungeon was winning our Nobel Peace Prize. You know, we have done something meaningful.